morning, wonderful viewers from wherever you're watching us from. It's 9 a.m. in Banjul, and this is yet another interesting edition of this morning program coming to you live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue, and I am your host, Julden Jai. It's the 1st of October, and we know it's a pink month. Pink October, also known as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This month is specifically dedicated to raise awareness on breast cancer, do a lot of screening on breast cancer, and also treatment and diagnosis on breast cancer and related issues as far as women reproductive health is concerned. So I am joined by Mr. Ade Drame, who is my co-host. Are you Mr. Balde today, or you're Julde?
I'm myself today.
I'm
not Ibrahim, Balde today. I'm Ade Darame today. And welcome to the viewers, and good morning to you too. And before we delve into the program, before I forget, because I'm getting old, today is International Day of Elderly Persons.
Yes.
So it's a UN recognized day, and they want us to be nice to older people.
Yes.
So I think I qualify as one of those. So
yes.
Yes,
Happy
absolutely.
International Day to you, Mr. Ade.
Thank
I know
you.
that in this part of our world, we have a lot of elderly people face a lot of discrimination, stigmatization, and all of that. You know, jokingly, I call my grandma a witch.
Well, this is it, and these are the things some people don't say jokingly.
Yeah.
And the day has been kind of designated by the UN to kind of raise awareness of, you know,
Yes.
marginalization of older people and so on. So yeah.
So we are joined by Dr. Ja. Dr. Ja will help us through the discussion for this. We are going to talk about breast cancer, and because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a lot of women are battling with breast cancer. Globally, 2.3 million cases of breast cancer is registered annually, and you know, it's affecting a lot of people, especially young girls and women. So, but in terms of the awareness creation is very low, so it's important that people get themselves screened regularly and then go to the hospitals if they see signs or symptoms that they are not really understanding. It's important for them to go to the hospitals or clinics or health facilities to get themselves.
I'm actually the trustee of cancer charity in Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leone Cancer Charity, and the majority of the cases we deal with are breast cancer cases. And in fact, the reason we started was because a cousin of mine, Verna Iskandari, she died due to breast cancer, and that was the spur for us starting it. And so it is named after it's the Sierra Leone Cancer Charity, the Verna Iskandari Johnson Initiative. Yeah.
So, like I mentioned, good morning. Doctor will join us to discuss these and others. Good morning,
Good
Doctor.
morning to both of you.
And welcome to this morning program.
Good morning to our viewers as well.
Thank you.
So, like I mentioned before, breast cancer cases, a staggering 2.3 million cases are registered every year. Talk to us about the causes of breast cancer. What is breast cancer in the first place to start off with?
Well, thank you very much. And before I get to that, Mr. Darame, you mentioned that you're a trustee in a cancer charity. There is a prominent cancer charity here called C3G, Cancer Confrontation Care and Consolation. And maybe we'll co-opt you to be one of the trustees also.
They marked their 7-year anniversary.
More than happy. And as you've mentioned it, one of the other things that spurred me on is that my mother died of cancer, and so did her 3 siblings. So it's something I'm very much. So you can. You're pushing at the open door.
That's a great thing. That's a great thing. And the C3G actually, end of this month on the 26th, we are going to be in Bansang, and we'll be screening women for breast cancer and for cervical cancer. And we're working with the establishment there, the Bansang Hospital, and we're hoping to see up to 600 women whom we will teach about breast cancer, and we will do some screening for them to see whether they've got it or not. But coming back to your question, Julde, cancer, the word itself is a very scary word that many people don't understand. And it is good for people to understand it, to know really what we're dealing with. As we know, our bodies are made up of building blocks called cells, trillions of them in our body. And each of our organs has cells that makes it up. And those cells are the source of the cancer, the source of the problem. Now, each of those building blocks is supposed to do a work in the body, and is supposed to follow the rules and the regulations of the body, and that is why the body is a very harmonized structure, and nothing really goes the other way except that if there is something wrong. And one of those cells gets rebellious and doesn't follow the rule and the order, and starts growing out of tandem with the rest of the body, and starts invading other parts of the body. For instance, the eye cells cannot live in the cheek cells cannot live in the liver, and so, but these cells defy all that, and therefore they decide that they can invade the whole body, and take over the whole body, and obviously when they do that, they cannot do it properly, and the body eventually dies. So it's a very serious disease, and breast cancer is the cancer of the cells of the breast, and when it happens to a woman, the first thing that happens is that these cells start growing very rapidly, and therefore if it grows very rapidly, you're going to get a swelling there, a lump there. And if you don't do anything about that lump becomes so big that the body can no longer feed it, so it ulcerates, it gets an ulcer, and it starts fungating. Now this, when we are talking about this in the West now, it's very difficult to see something like that, see a breast that is fungating. Unfortunately for us in the Gambia, what we see is that stage most of the time. People don't get up in time when they have breast cancer, and therefore we see only the late stages. So coming to your question, I'm just going around and around it, but coming to your question, what are the causes? Mostly cancer, we don't know the cause of most cancers. It is something that is genetic. It is something that is in the genes of the person that has come up, and sometimes it is triggered by something. So what we know are the associated factors. What we know are the risk factors. What are the things that can give you a risk of getting cancer of the breast? One of them is family history. Just like Mr. Ade has said, you know, some families, cancers run in them. So if you have a family history, then you'd better, it doesn't mean you're going to get it, but your chances of getting it are more. And therefore, you have to be checking yourself regularly. The second thing is women who have never had children. Again, it's just a risk factor. It doesn't mean that if you have children, you're not going to get cancer. It doesn't mean that if you don't have children, but the people who don't have children have an increased risk of getting cancer. People who don't breastfeed. So a woman who has never breastfed has more chance of getting cancer than a woman who has breastfed. People who started their menstrual cycle very early. So if you started your menstrual cycle below the age of 12 and you've menstruated for a very long period, more than 40, more than 50 years of age, then there is a chance that you could get breast cancer. Then we come to the general ones. Smoking, both primary smoking and secondary smoking can give you a risk of getting cancer. Obesity can give you a risk of getting cancer. Unhealthy diet can give you a risk of getting cancer. So there are so many risks, and usually what we focus on is living healthy, exercise, and healthy feeding, and also what we call early diagnosis. Those are the two things that the whole world is focusing on. The healthy living and early diagnosis. Those are very important aspects of cancer care, especially breast cancer.
And I'm glad Doctor mentioned this, because myself and a colleague were watching HealthLink, where you dealt with this subject, and she said to me that she's scared of even getting tested. And so I related to her my own family history, and I said for some of them, even though they knew they might be susceptible, the fear of discovering it meant that they were discovered late.
Exactly.
And I said, you don't want to be in that position. How do we convince people? And I asked this because I wanted to know what sense do you get of how, I mean, in the West now it's a routine. People go to their general practitioner and you know, they get, but here, how do we convince people to go and get tested, particularly using this as the kind of the spur this month particularly?
I mean, the advantage of getting tested is that if you get tested, you can get cured.
Right.
It's as simple as that. If you get tested, you can get cured. If you appear late, you will not be cured. So if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. Whether you test or not, you're going to get it. So people should look at that. Cancer is curable. The reason why many people fear cancer so much here and feel that it cannot be cured is because they come late. I always relate this issue whenever I talk about cancer, is that when I was in the UK, training in the UK, I used to deal with at least 2 prostate cancers every week for cure. I operate them so that they are cured. And I have that skill. And we have the materials to do that same operation here. And I came to the Gambia between 2009 and 2020. I did only 2 operations to cure prostate cancer. And the reason is not because I'm not seeing prostate cancer. Every day I see prostate cancer. Every day I sit in my clinic, I see prostate cancer. But all those prostate cancers are so late that you can no longer cure them. So the advantage, Adi, is that if you go and test yourself without having any symptoms, then the likelihood is that if there is something there, you can be cured. And you can be cured very easily.
There are beliefs that, or notions that people say, okay, sometimes because of the bra, maybe it is too tight and all of that. So
they will not myths.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That, okay, this is maybe leading to breast cancer. So what are the signs and symptoms to look out for as far as breast cancer is concerned?
We start with the bra. We don't know of any cause of the bra causing breast cancer, no matter how tight it is, no matter how loose it is. There is no scientific proof that the bra can cause breast cancer. So let's leave that aside. Now, what are the early signs? I think the first thing that we should focus on is not even science. The first thing we should focus on is screening, which Ade alluded to, is screening. What we are going to do in Bansang. No problem with you. You don't have any problem whatsoever. You're just going to go and tell the doctor, look at me and see whether there is any chances that I have cancer now. And it's not only once in a lifetime you do it. You have to do it regularly. Maybe every year, every 2 years, you go and check yourself. So that's the first thing, screening. The second thing is what we call early diagnosis. Is many of the cancers we're talking about, like prostate cancer, like liver cancer, you cannot see the organ. So you don't know what is happening to the organ. But luckily for the woman, the breast is out there. You can see it, you can feel it. And we know that the first sign of any tumor, of any cancer, is a lump, an abnormal lump that was not there before. So if women are feeling their breasts every now and again, whenever there is a lump there, they can feel it. And if they feel there's a lump, not all lumps are cancers, but if you see there's a lump, then you can go to the doctor, then the doctor can decide whether this is a cancer or not. And if it is at that stage, when it's only a small lump, then the cure is very simple. It can be done in the office. You don't even need to go to theater. They can give you some local anesthetic there and then remove the lump, and that's it. You're cured. Okay, so the thing to look out for is a lump. So lump is one of them. If it is getting late, that lump gets bigger, and then the skin gets a little bit thick over the lump, which is what we call peau d'orange, which is the skin of an orange. It looks like the skin of an orange. And then later on it ulcerates. But those are all very late signs. We're not waiting for that. What we want is every woman to get screened. But if you're not being screened, if you feel any lump that you don't know, you go and present yourself to a hospital, and it can be cured here in the Gambia without any complications.
So in terms of self-examination too, how do women do that to determine, okay, maybe I have cancer and all of that? Because I hear a lot of people say, okay, this is very simple, that you can even examine yourself as a woman to know whether you have the signs and symptoms or whether you have cancer or not. Yes.
So usually what you do is you stand in front of a mirror as a woman, and then you first look. You first just look. What I said in the beginning is that God has created us in a way in which we are symmetrical. Everything looks normal. So you look at yourself, look at your breast. If one of the breasts is abnormally larger than the other one, then you should raise some worry that it was not like that, but one of the breasts has gotten bigger than the other breast. So that's a problem. So you look in the mirror, look at your breast, see whether the nipples are pointing you know, the same way. If one of them is pointing that way and one of them is pointing that way, then the nipple that is pointing the abnormal way might have a problem in it. Look and see whether what I described, the peau d'orange that I talked about, whether there's any thickening of the skin there. Then you touch your breast. You touch all over the breast. So you can have a systematic way of going onto the breast and then touch everywhere and see whether you can feel anything that you've not felt before. So if we normally say that the woman knows her breast. It's not the doctor who knows. If you go to a doctor to feel your breast once, that doctor has felt it only that once. But if you're feeling your breast all the time, if there is something that crops up that is not there, that was not there before, it's very easy for you to know it. So that's what we call self-breast examination, and is one of the greatest tools for breast cancer.
So in terms of the side effects, because there are a lot of misconceptions, others are saying, okay, once you're treated for breast cancer, you will find it very difficult to conceive as a woman, or sometimes it will disturb your reproductive health and all of that. So are there any side effects of breast cancer treatment, whether long or short term?
Thank you. That again depends on when you have presented with the breast cancer. If you present very early with the breast cancer and it's only a lump and it is removed, no side effects whatsoever. You should not worry, apart from the side effect of the surgery. Surgery has been done, there'll be pain, there'll be a scar there, there'll be, maybe there could be chances of an infection going on. Apart from those side effects, there's no real long-term side effects. Now, if you get into chemotherapy, then definitely, yes, it could affect your fertility. It may not destroy it altogether, but it could affect your fertility. And if you get into radiotherapy again, it is also another thing that could be harmful or could have side effects. So apart from the side effects of the fertility that we're talking about, you can talk about other side effects of chemotherapy, where you lose your hair, you get nausea, lots of nausea during the treatment. That doesn't last long, but during the treatment, nauseous, vomiting, all that sort of thing, anemia. So all those things you can get from the chemotherapy. You could get infections also, because the chemotherapy can reduce your immunity. So once your immunity is reduced, then infections can crop in. With the radiotherapy also, you have similar side effects, although it's just rays that are being put there. You do have episodes of nausea, vomiting again. It could cause damage to other tissues around there, and so forth. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So the trick is present early, go early, then your treatment is going to be inconsequential, and you're going to be free. You can be free from the cancer once and for all.
Yeah, so doctor, in terms of Pink October, you've mentioned the screening. What other activities are you aware of that are taking place?
Yes, I think EFSTH Banjul, they also do. I don't know whether they fixed a day yet for their screening, but they do a screening, and all these screenings I'm talking about are free of charge. So you go in, the doctors see you, examine you. There are teachings about how to self-examine. We also talk about cervical cancer, and then if there is any thing that is seen that is either precancerous or early cancer, then you will be referred for treatment. For cervical cancer, actually on the spot, you will be treated if you have an early lesion that needs treatment.
And in terms of the cancers, I mentioned that the charity we have in Sierra Leone, most of the ones that present are breast cancer. What's the, in terms of the Gambia, what are the most common ones?
Yes, in the Gambia, depending on the male or female, but globally, both males and females, the commonest is liver cancer. Liver cancer is very common in the Gambia because of aflatoxin is the main thing, and hepatitis B. And then in women, obviously, it is breast cancer, and then cervical cancer, while in men, it is prostate cancer.
So men can't have breast cancer?
They can. Men can have, it is much less common than in women, but men can have breast cancer. And unfortunately for men, when they have breast cancer, it's much more serious than a woman, because a woman, you can have very early breast cancer. In men, it is very hard that you see an early breast cancer, because the breast tissue is so small that once there's cancer there, it's already late by the time it is discovered. But men can have it.
True. So the theme of this year is no one should face breast cancer alone, and you're talking about the screening initiatives that are happening at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital and other health facilities also. In terms of screening activities nationwide, do we have that in our health facilities to screen people who are suspected of having breast cancer?
Yes, some of the few hospitals have imbibed that. We did our C3G screening in Bundung Maternal Health last year. It was such a success, and we had actually some donation or some support from TIKA, which is the Turkish embassy, and we have set up a screening office there in Bansang, in Bundung Maternal Health, where they are doing regular screening for, especially for cervical cancer for women there. But if you appear in any hospital, you can be screened.
So WHO has actually set aside a target for 2040 to reduce the cancer cases to 2.5 million lives, by saving 2.5 million lives. In terms of at the Gambia level, do we have what it takes to actually meet up this target?
Thank you. I mean, for the first time in the Gambia, I think this was 2 years ago, we set up a national cancer control program, NCCP, led by my friend Mr. Dr. Bojang, it is a new initiative in the Gambia. We never had it before, so now we have that program which is supposed to be looking at cancer and trying to reduce the prevalence and trying to increase the number of women that are discovered early, so basically increasing awareness about cancer. So yes, I think we are on course for that.
And just on picking up on that, and I don't know whether it's similar to the one, so in Sierra Leone, I mean, and this is a fact, the first cancer register for the whole country was set up by our charity. The government didn't have one.
That's amazing.
We worked with the government, but what the government did was they facilitated it so that hospitals nationwide would send in their data to us, so we all collect the data at a single point. So we had to train people to collect it in the proper way, go around to the places. So do we have a similar system?
We do.
Right.
Actually, Gambia boasted of one of the few cancer registries in the whole of West Africa, a national cancer registry. So there was there is a national cancer registry. It has its challenges, though. It was initially based in MRC. But now the ministry has taken custody, and it is based in the teaching hospital. So yes, there has been a national cancer registry in the Gambia for a long time.
In fact, for us, we had to send our people to Uganda to be trained.
Yeah.
So all the way from Sierra Leone, we couldn't find anywhere at the time in West Africa.
Yes. So those are our challenges. I mean, I think we got on the boat very late. We have been just laid back about these things for a long time as a government, as a people. But I think we're beginning to understand that this is really very serious and taking steps towards it.
And if I can appeal to Gambians who are watching this, when I came, since I've lived in the Gambia, one of the things that I found quite shocking is that when people are sick, they don't go to a doctor, they go to a pharmacist.
Very unfortunate, very unfortunate.
And I've mentioned this many times before. I've never seen so many pharmacies per street, per head of population as here in the Gambia. We certainly don't have that in Sierra Leone. And first port of call is, but for something like this, you need to go to a doctor. You can't go to a pharmacist.
And we have less than 40 pharmacists in the whole country.
Which country?
Here, less than
pharmacy.
40.
Well, I think we're referring to two different things. We're referring to the pharmacies and we're referring to the drugstores. There are loads and loads of drugstores, and I understand.
Caraba Avenue alone, there are 10. So
I was talking to the national pharmacy association, and they made me understand that actually a lot of those drugstores are not licensed.
They're not licensed.
Yes, unfortunately, and that is. But there's so much profit in it because that's where the people go first. Because it's very easy. You go in, it's what we call in the Gambia fat. So you go in, they give you a medicine, and then you go home. You go to the doctor, it's a different story. You have to spend almost the whole day there doing tests, doing that, and unfortunate. But we need to change that that way of thinking.
So how do we make sure that we plug into the theme for this year about no one being left alone?
I think it is just what we are doing. The National Cancer Control Program is part of us. We had to inform them that we are going to do this, and we have to support the women who have cancer. We have to start putting the support systems in place so that people can know where to go to when they have suspicion that they have cancer, and also to have the trust that when they go, they're going to benefit from going to see the doctor if they have an early cancer, and for that myth that cancer is incurable to be put aside, because cancer is curable, but only if you discover it early. That is the only caveat to it, is that it can be cured, but only if you discover it early. So let us discover it early. Let us work together to discover if we have cancer in good time.
So thank you very much, Dr. Jah, for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me. And I think we have a new trustee for C3G.
I think you do.
We're going to contact you.
Sure, for sure.
Yes, okay.
Thank you very much. So viewers, we will go for a short commercial break. When we return, we have the newspaper review and of course our African proverb, the famous African proverb, and the program will continue. To stay tuned.
Looking for internet for your free videos, pictures, chats, work, and school projects? Think Free Night Browsing. QCell's Free Night Browsing lets you browse the internet for free. Oh yeah. Get a data SIM, recharge a minimum of $500 and enjoy free browsing after 24 hours from midnight to 6 a.m. every night for 30 days. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. It's happy time. Get 50% off all calls to any network. Enjoy calls every day to any network from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Is it too good to be true? QCell. We innovate, others follow. As the fastest growing GSM company in the Gambia, QCell has the widest 4G plus coverage in the country, 3 times faster internet speed than our competitors. So switch now and dial *335# and enjoy what true 4G feels like. QCell, the Gambia's trusted network. QCell, the fastest growing network in the Gambia, now presents to you the eSIM. QCell's eSIM allows you to electronically scan a code and join the world of digital SIM cards. Customers with physical SIMs can easily switch to the eSIM as well. So rush now and get connected with an eSIM and start using the latest mobile technology with your trusted GSM operator. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Get a QCell SIM card for free. Yes, absolutely free. Walk into any of our customer care centers and get a SIM free of charge. With a QCell SIM card, you can get the fastest and the most reliable internet plus wide range of amazing services. So rush now to any of our care centers and get a free SIM now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the This Morning program coming to you live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue, from that insightful discussion with Dr. Jah on breast cancer. And we know we are on Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Pink October. And, you know, a lot of misconceptions as far as breast cancer is concerned. But thankfully, hopefully, those misconceptions are cleared here and people will be able to find solutions when they find some of these symptoms. So we are We are now going, according to the program, we are starting off with our African proverb, and then we have our newspaper review guest, who is Mar Nyang. It's good to have you, Mar.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Julde.
Always a pleasure to have you, Mar. Yes.
Thank you very much.
And Mar has drawn the short straw, I think, by being here for both the African proverb and the newspaper review.
Yes.
So I'll read the African proverb, and we'll actually give Julde the first go. She's always trying to
I'm coming
slide
last.
from it. So Julde, not this time. It says, a bird does not sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. You're looking kind of pensive there. Whilst you're thinking of that, Mar, what's your take on that?
Can you repeat that again? This looks like a tough
bird
one.
does not sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song.
Oh, this is a tough one.
It's a tough one.
all the proverbs that having come out of this show, I was able to address them. This will require a critical thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of deep, but it's also talking about you do something because it's in your nature. You know, the bird sings because it's in its nature. And sometimes as human beings, we do something not because, you know, we're trying to be clever or whatever. It is just in our nature to be able to do certain things. You can sit in a class and, you know, I remember when I was in school, there were guys who, whenever they would put up something that was to do with arithmetics, the rest of us would be struggling, and they'd raise their hand to tell the teacher, I've got it. You know, and it just came naturally to them. And so to the bird that sings, singing comes naturally to that bird. So it's about things that come naturally to someone. And you know, we all have different facilities. There are some people who can sing, great voices. There are people who cannot sing. I remember I was once forced by my grandparents to go and try and join a church choir. Literally, when I opened my mouth to sing the first verse, the rest of the choir were in stitch. They were laughing. They were laughing so hard they fell off. And my grandfather was convinced that I sang badly deliberately. And yet my brother, my older brother, he sang, and he was inducted into the choir. But, you know, it just wasn't in me, you know, much as I liked music. So, yeah, so I think it's about what comes to one naturally. So to the bird, as I say, if you took the literal sense, to the bird, singing comes naturally. There are some birds that sing outside my window every morning. It's a beautiful sound. One day I will record it because it's such a beautiful song that,
it serves as a therapy for you.
It really is. It's quite therapeutic and quite musical, you know, and I love hearing the sound. In fact, the day I don't hear it will seem really, really weird because it's every day, you know. So to them, that's what they do. It's in their nature. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's my take.
Oh, you go ahead. I'll pass this one.
You pass this
You're
one.
passing it back and forth. But
so,
yeah.
Mr. Ade, I think you are alone on this one today. But I will give it a shot and see. I know it's not quite the same answer you gave, but yeah, for the fact that someone is always complaining about one thing or the other, or you have someone who is like the rebel leader, in most cases you have people who are always opposing stuff, or they tend to be considered as people who are the rebels, like whatever happens, the rebel person. So it doesn't always have to be someone has to oppose you. As a leader, I think it's good to be accommodative, to listen to all voices, even those that you feel that are opposing you, because sometimes it might not always be the opposing side. But
so how does that relate to, how does the rate does not sing
Mr.
because
Ade,
it has
like
an
I
answer?
mentioned, I'm struggling with this proverb, so allow me to give my own interpretation.
You're taking the scenic route around this. You're taking the wrong route, but sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's good that to listen. Sometimes even those that you think that are your biggest critics might come up with solutions or to your problems. It's not always about the singing side of it or always finding answers to those problems. But also sometimes it's good that you listen to people for them to be able to bring things. It's not always about, okay, because I am always against Mr. Ade, we are always not, you know, on the same level or the same side. Doesn't mean that sometimes I will not tell Mr. Ade things that are of importance or relevance to him. So yeah, I know it does not relate to this, but whatever it is, after it.
There's a famous book, I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. and it kind of encapsulates that. So the bird, whether it's free or it's caged, it will still sing.
Sing, yeah.
Because so it's like people, whether you put me here or you put me there,
Yeah.
you put me in a different environment, I will still be myself.
Yes.
This is what this is about.
No matter where I am.
No matter where I
taken.
am, I will be myself.
I'll
If you take me in
still
another
be-
country,
Yeah.
you know, I once wrote this poem, and it had this line that if I was born in China, would you call me Chinese? No, you wouldn't. I'd still be an African who happened to be born in China.
Born in China, yeah.
But I could have Chinese citizenship because of birth, possibly.
Yeah.
But I would not be Chinese. You know, I would still. So, you know, the characteristics that are there that I've inherited from my parents and grandparents and my genes and my
Would
DNA
always
would
be
still
there.
they'll still be there.
No matter where you are.
No matter where I am and no matter where
Yeah.
you place me. And that's why when we were enslaved and taken to the Americas and to the Caribbean, you see the societies that have grown up, black societies, they still retain a lot. You go to somewhere like Salvador de Bahia in Brazil, 300-400 years later, people still speak Yoruba there because that was what they came with. You know, the Brazilian, the Portuguese who enslaved them did not beat it out of them because it was innate. It was in them. You know, and as we keep going back to the bird,
Yeah.
it is in that your nature to be
Nature
this
to be that.
thing and to retain those.
And it doesn't change no matter where you are.
No matter where you are,
When
you are still
change,
yourself.
That is not you.
That's still
Probably
yourself.
you were trying to be
And
someone
it's always
who
a
you're
fight.
not. Yeah.
When we go to Western countries, for example, I mean, I have a simple name. If you, my longer version of it is Adeyemi, but most people just call me Ade. And yet, I remember being in England, and somebody would say to me, "Oh, can I call you Eddie?" I'm like, it's the same two syllables, Ade and Eddie. So why call me Eddie when you can call me Ade? What's the struggle? But just they kind of condition themselves to say, "Oh, it's a difficult name." No, it's not a difficult
Yeah.
name. It's two syllables. You know.
Exactly.
And so I would always fight it because I want it to be me. I want people to recognize me as this is
As
an African
you,
name.
yeah.
This is my name. I'm not changing it for anything. And many of our people, they go, like Kamara once.
Change, yeah.
he
Once
went-
they find themselves in a new
Like
environment, they
this
change.
one
to
Kamara
suit.
guy who went to Russia to study, or when it was still the Soviet Union, and this is not a joke, when he came back to Sierra Leone, he changed his name to Kamarakov. It's like ridiculous. It's like ridiculous. But
That's
Mar,
typical
over to you.
example of when
Before we
you
delve
go
into the
as
newspaper,
romance.
before we delve into the newspapers, Mar, what's your take on it?
No,
We
I
haven't
say
given-
I will
Mr.
let this
Ade
pass,
has
but
given us a context. Even I have a different interpretation now
Now.
from the previous one.
Uh-huh,
So, man,
uh-huh.
I think Ari has already set the record straight.
yeah.
But yeah, it's important to be who you are, no matter what.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I saw a video that was posted by Mari Jabate, and the lady was like, okay, I forgot the name, but it's something Nawal something.
Okay.
And the lady was explaining in that video
Mm.
that when she goes to school, people find it very difficult to pronounce her name. It's
Right,
like
and
your
so
story.
she's in a foreign country.
It's in the foreign.
Oh,
it's
right,
in,
okay.
in the US.
Uh-huh,
And then she, according to the video, the
Right.
lady gets back home and then said to mom, "Can I be called Zoe?" So I saw that video from Madi and I was like, "Oh, this relates to what you're actually
yeah.
talking about." And the mother was like, "If the your classmates can pronounce this name, Western names, why not yours?" So
Yeah.
I think it's the same, and unfortunately, there's a lot that has been taken away from us. And just a couple of days ago, I made a post quoting the relics of Daraji family, and that verse says, "Baga askan lunu momoton," "Baga askan lunu momoton," meaning we are taking ownership of something else that has never been ours,
Yes, yeah.
right?
That's it.
And letting go of what's ours,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And that is fading away bit by bit. And I think, schools, but outside school, extracurricular activities, including us, right? Before we used to have the Roots program, and then also, I think Ministry of Tourism So be able to come up with something else where, as Gambians, be Mandinka, Wolof, Shir, Aku, right? You have historians in all of those, ethnic groups, right?
Yeah.
And then they will give this oral history, because most of the written parts are gone, and then you pass this from one generation to another generation. For example, my roots is in Senegal, right? So my grandparent was Mar. I actually named myself Mar. Mar was in my name, right?
Okay.
Yes. After getting realized that Mar is my grandfather, I changed that in 2006 to Mar. So that was in my real name. So in 2009, I get to my village and I was told the history of Griot. I'm a Griot. Now, in our settings, if you call a Griot, you're perceived as someone else who talks a lot, right? So getting to learn about my roots and then also relating it to the history that I learned at school, Griot, being a Griot doesn't really mean that you are oppressing.
No, quite. Which is the kind of shorthand
exactly.
that people
you preserve history.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand? And then during the battle before, when the emperor or the king wants to withdraw, the Griot reminds him of his predecessors and how they were able to fight a battle and win their oppressors. So do not give up. So just going back to what you said, is in Wolof also, it is stated, right? If you know where you're coming from, you know where you're heading to. So it's very important to know who you are, so that you retain that. Just like you said, whether you are caged as a bird or not, whether your freedom is taken away from you or not, you still have to be who you are, right? So I think maybe that's one of the things that we should be teaching our kids. TikTok has taken away, social media has taken away a lot from them. They're trying to embrace the life that is not theirs, and then you get lost. I keep my mom is an Aku, and shout out to her if she's watching. So I keep joking with her. I keep telling her that, you Akus, you're fooling us, right? You no offense to my Aku grandparents, but it's just a joke.
Or mine.
Okay, it's just a joke. So I keep telling my mom, so you guys were enslaved. You forgot about your culture and your language, and you wanted to adopt the Western language. Now you came back here, you forgot about yours. You cannot speak good English, and so she keeps making fun out of what. It's a joke, but that just tells you that if I'm not making any comparison here, I'm very much grateful to my Aku parents, because they brought me up very well. And if you want to talk about integrity, the Aku ethnicity is a school to learn integrity and honesty. So, but then what I wanted to get to is, our kids. And the younger generation that is coming up, school cannot teach them who they are. The history that has been taught keeps repeating, but I think at the grassroots level, at our community, we should have this bantaba as it used to be before, and then these scholars, these historians, right, traditional historians, will come in and narrate the story of not only their ethnicity, but then also the warriors of this country, right? Kunta Kinte's story has to be told by someone else from outside, right? Why not we start documenting in the form of a movie, in the form of a series? So filmmakers, this is for you. We need our historians to be remembered.
And I said when I first joined QTV that all of us can be historian. Obviously for me it's something of a passion. But I remember one of the first things I wanted to do when I joined the team was that I wanted everybody in the team who had a relative that had been alive at the time of independence to go and interview that person. What was your experience of 1965? What was their experience of the first time when we became a republic? Those things, and just record them on your phone. And for family's sake, for posterity, and you never know. We can build up a bank of these stories, because these people, they're not going to live forever. And if we don't record it, they die and they take that story with them, you know, and it's something that I think is quite tragic. If you live in Europe, they record stuff like this all the time, and that's why you can find so much historical material to draw on when you want to do any research. So yeah,
definitely.
so yeah.
So,
So newspaper-wise,
yes.
so you see
Our newspapers.
the African proverb took us
Yes.
around the world, but we got there. We got there
It's an
because it
interesting,
stimulates,
yeah.
which is what it's meant to do.
Absolutely.
Stimulates,
So on the newspapers, we have the Point, Foroya, and Standard newspaper. On the Point newspaper, NEPA, which is the Newspaper Publishers Association, urges police to drop charges against 2 journalists.
Sure. This relates to the
The
Barrow
Voice, yeah.
case, of course. You know, we've said this time and time again. We dealt with it yesterday here on this program. It seems a really odd one that anybody should be charged. It's not a criminal matter. So I'm not sure how the police got involved and they become arrested. You sue somebody for alleged libel or slander or whatever, and then the police, I don't know, I think, you know, without going too far here, I think they overstepped the boundaries of their mandate. And yeah, I'm not sure anybody needs to tell them to release these people. They're not a danger to anybody, they're not a threat to anybody. Just for writing a newspaper article. It's quite a serious matter that they were arrested in the first place, and I think we have to be honest about that, you know.
Oh, it's shameful, really, really shameful. Politicians, they know what they are getting into when they are campaigning to be elected. So you should be really be ready for what is to come. Before you were a politician, before Barrow was a president, before Barrow was a politician, right? He had issues with people from his communities, right? But he was not that targeted as he is right now, because you are the leader, not a monarch, right? Even a monarch in Britain, they receive worse than what President Barrow
than any African president gets.
You know, politicians should be ready, and they must apply the lotion of thick skin on their body.
We don't do it very well in Africa.
And get ready for what is to come, because you're going to be grilled, you're going to be you know, monitored. Your life is not going to be private anymore. So, and I think this is a very trivial matter, right? Well, if this is what the Voice said, simple, what the government has been known for its press release since they came to power. Anytime something comes, the line that they are very much used to is false news, false information, misleading information. That's what they have been doing. So what has changed?
I mean, I worked as quite a senior government comms advisor, and to be honest, in Britain, a story like this, they wouldn't even paid any attention to it, and it would have died a death. It would have been the story flavor of the day for 2 or 3 days, and that would have been the end of it.
It's so
now
petty.
It
is really pity. What is stopping the government from using the same newspaper, using the Ministry of Information, using GRCS, using all the medias that they have paid the $40 million, and then come and refute it? And I said, this is not true. And we encourage the media to be truthful in the information that they are publishing.
And that should be end of the story.
Simple as that, right? So you cannot be a politician expecting that everything is going to be smooth, right, for you. It's not going to happen. Look, we have metamorphosed as a country. We have moved on, right? What used to be before during the Jammeh era is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
And
so
we have to. I know you touched something very sensitive, but we have to just conclude this, right?
Exactly.
Our message is for President Barrow, right, to focus on the most important thing, which is the country and developing the country. Yes, as a citizen, he has a right to sue for defamation, what have you, but he is no the same as ordinary citizens.
Well, this is it, because the same immunity he has from prosecution, he cannot file a case.
So we have a call on the line. We have the Jihad Eid, who is the Honorary Vice Consul General and Commercial Attaché of the Gambia in Lebanon. So he will be updating us on the happenings there. Good morning, Mr. Aid.
Good morning.
He's replied to you.
Talk to us about what is the latest happening in Lebanon.
Okay. Please, before I carry on, I just want you to understand that the line is sketchy. I will try as best as I could from what I can hear from you, and hoping that you could hear me properly.
We are hearing
Yeah.
you clear, clear as a bell from us. We can hear you very clearly. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the problem is I'm unable to hear you
Okay.
completely, but I'll do my best. Okay, the latest situation in Lebanon is that the intensity of the attacks from Israel has somehow gone down a little bit, but no one can predict where or when it will hit any given area. Okay, if I can just give them to you at one go, hoping that the line will hold. The information that we've been receiving so far is that there are no more Gambians in the south of Lebanon, where the most the heaviest fighting was taking place, and that most of them have moved to relatively safer areas. Okay, having said that, in Lebanon there's no such place as a safe place anymore. The best we can say is that there are relatively safer places than others. About 10 days or 12 days ago, together with His Excellency the Consul General, Mr. Hamoud, we activated something called the Gambian Community in Lebanon. It's a WhatsApp group. It's been around for a while. It's been mostly social, but this time we've enacted it as an emergency channel for any Gambians already in the group to signal their whereabouts and to tell more Gambians who are unaware of the group to join the group. And the other thing is that any Gambian that is in a situation of distress or danger, to signal it to the group so that we can we can take the best course of action within our possibility. We've been putting up circulars on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and we've been updating the Gambian community regularly. So Mr. Hamoud, myself, and the Gambian coordinator, Mr. Bajan, we're doing everything to keep people updated. Okay, I'm waiting for your next question.
So the Gambians that are in Lebanon right now, do we have any cases or do we have anyone who is injured so far as the airstrike in the Israeli airstrike is concerned?
Injured or killed.
Do we have any injuries or deaths?
The information we keep getting so far, till this very minute, there are no Gambian injuries, no casualties, nothing. There was a case of a Senegalese lady who was born in Senegal, Casamance to be more precise. She got killed with her employer in the south of Lebanon. At first, people thought she's a Gambian citizen, but it turned out that she is Senegalese. Her family is in Senegal, but for some reason this girl was carrying a Gambian passport. Other than that, there is no Gambian casualty, no deaths, no injuries, nothing. But some Gambians are worried, and many of them have been calling me on my line directly outside of the group, and they've been asking for more information. So we've been talking to their employers, and all the employers have said to me that they are outside of the direct confrontational areas, and that the moment they feel that there is any danger on themselves or their employees, they will move to safer areas. So until this minute, as I speak, we are in contact with them. Yeah, but I confirm no deaths, no casualties, no injuries for the Gambians in Lebanon.
Mr. Eid, we've heard, and it's only a rumor, that Senegal, because a number of their citizens had expressed a wish to leave Lebanon completely, certainly for the in the kind of short term anyway, Have you had any sense from the Gambian community there that people are expressing similar sentiments that we can be evacuated? And just to say that it is alleged that Senegal is arranging a flight for some of its citizens who want to leave. Have you heard anything of that nature in terms of an appeal from Gambians that they want to leave, or they just want to move somewhere safer?
No. To be very honest with you, yes, some Gambians have expressed that desire, that they wish to leave. And I've always been as honest as I could be, that yes, why not? But under the circumstances, the airport is closed.
Right.
But that if, in case, any country, for that matter, be it African or Arab or whatever, wishes to send a plane or planes to evacuate their citizens, we are available to talk to them so that we can do something called pooled flights, whereby they don't only take their own citizens, but wherever they have available seats, if they can take Gambian citizens as well, we're quite ready to cooperate and help anyone who wishes to leave. But right up to this moment, we have not been contacted. Rest assured, the moment any country, Senegal, Nigeria, Morocco, whichever country is prepared to take Gambian citizens, we will tell the group.
Sure.
And whoever wishes to leave, then we will try to coordinate with the country that is sending the plane. Obviously, one plane will not do. It should have to be several planes.
Sure.
And once they clear with the Lebanese authorities to land their planes in Lebanon, we are available anytime. My line is open 24 hours. Mr. Hamoud's line is open 24 hours. Mr. Bajan's line is open 24 hours. They can wake us up in the middle of the night. We're here to serve them and help them.
Okay, Mr. E, thank you very much for talking to us on QTV this morning program.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you very much. And I'm available anytime.
Thank you very much. Thank you for spending this time with us. As he said there, people can get updates on his Facebook page. Now, if people don't know Lebanon or they don't know Beirut, it's a shame, because I have family who are married to people of Lebanese descent, and they spent a lot of time in Lebanon in the 60s and early 70s. Lebanon, Beirut, Beirut was one of the most beautiful cities. It's now utterly destroyed. It's honestly, without exaggeration, it almost brings me to tears when I remember what it was like to what it has become. It's nothing short of a tragedy, and really, the sooner that conflict ends, I think the better, and they can get back to rebuilding what was a beautiful country. Yeah.
Well,
at least there is relief that no Gambian is
yes,
dead or injured.
that's a big
that's
relief.
not a relief, because you never know when another strike is going to happen, and whether it's going to claim a Gambian life. So this Israel invasion, this Israel brutality is not only stopping up Palestine. Now, before we were talking about our Palestinian brothers, free Palestine. Now here we are talking about our Gambian brothers and sisters, Senegalese, and then also our Lebanese relatives in Lebanon. So who's next?
Who's next? I mean, you have Syrians who had fled their war in Syria, and now they're fleeing back to what is still a war-torn country, Syria. That's how bad it has become, particularly in Beirut and other parts of southern Lebanon. It's really
very unfortunate. The whole world is sitting and watching Mr. Netanyahu and his IDF getting into this brutal massacre journey.
American Defense Secretary congratulated them
at the UN General Assembly. He said that he never wanted to give a speech in the first place, but because of when he heard of all the lies and the misinformation directed at his country, he decided to come and then clear the air.
Because
according
IDF,
to him, Israel wants peace. They yearn for peace.
They're going in a very strange way about it. I mean, just this morning, the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, announced that they have now launched a ground invasion into
yes.
Lebanon. That's how much peace they want. But look, this conflict stretches back several decades. This is just the latest and one of the bloodiest for several decades that has happened. And as Mar rightly says, the world's hands have been tied when it comes to Israel, because the minute you criticize Israel, people say you're anti-Semitic. And in the West, that label can destroy your life, your career. It's one of the worst things you can be accused of. But it's not. It's as if it's a nation that should be above criticism. And so, you know, when people have tried to veto them, America, Britain have stepped in and sanctioned them, rather. America and Britain have stepped in to veto any sanctions at the United Nations. So it goes on, and you can kill people, but you can't kill an idea or an ideology.
Yeah.
So if that's what the aim is, then I think Netanyahu might be disappointed, because in 10, 15 years, younger people will grow up with the resentments of what happened this time, and those people will take up the fight again. So it never ends. That's not the way to do it.
Absolutely. And I saw a video of him yesterday where he has this map saying that, okay, Israel is the tiniest country in the world. I don't know why is it targeted and all of that they deserve to have their own sovereignty and everything.
They do, but so do others.
Yeah.
So do the Palestinians. And
People,
the injustice that has befallen the Palestinians to accommodate the state of Israel is what has led to all of this.
All
You
of
can
these.
spin it any way you want, but that is the root of
The
it.
indiscriminate killing of women and children.
And that's the most
facilities,
disturbing
infrastructure.
part. No one denies the sovereignty of the Israel state,
Correct.
but most importantly as well, innocent citizens, unborn child, girls, women, boys, do not deserve to be killed for someone else's crime. Now, tens of thousands of them are buried, right, for a crime that they have not committed. If you have all of these state-of-the-art military materials and gadgets, right, and you were able to track down your enemy, why kill innocent people in the first place?
Correct.
So now, like I said, we're not concerned about our Gambians, our Lebanon friends and family, and we have to be mindful that not only Gambians who left Gambia to relocate in Lebanon are the only ones affected. We have Gambian Lebanese.
Yeah, of course.
We have a Gambian Lebanese community both in the Gambia and also in Lebanon.
Yeah, of course.
So if those are affected, we are also affected. So I think the government must step up. It is really getting out of hand what is happening in the Middle East. And I mean, in this day and age, we don't want to see that brutality, right? I guess this could be settled another way different from what is happening right now. No one else deserves to be killed like they are doing it.
The tragedy of all this is that
unfortunate.
hundreds of thousands, possibly millions, will die, and at the end they will talk peace. And you always wonder, why didn't they talk peace in the first place?
Yeah.
You know, people, it seems it's the one thing that human beings never learn, that at the end of the day, you make peace with your enemies, not with your friends. So the very enemy you're fighting is the one that you will have to sit down at the table with and negotiate something, some sort of compromise, some sort of rapprochement. It has to happen, you know. But, yeah.
So moving on, still on the newspaper review, we have here on the Fourier newspaper, Gambia reiterates call to end blockade against Cuba at the United Nations General Assembly.
Yeah, since Castro and his revolution came to power, America, it's I think without exaggeration the longest blockade in certainly the last 300-400 years. Essentially, they've blockaded it. I mean, it had become so bad at one time that if you went to Cuba on holiday and there was a stamp, visa stamp entry, they wouldn't allow you into the United States. And so they would ask you, do you want us to stamp to show that? Because sometimes some people like to show their visa stamps, I've been to this country and so on. But when you landed in Cuba, they would ask you, do you want the stamp or not? And you say, no, I don't want it because I might be going to America. But now they've kind of relaxed that. And so what has also fueled it is that the Cubans who fled Cuba and now live in America, mainly in places like Miami, Florida, they're very strong and kind of very much anti. And so if anybody ever says, oh, let's relax relations with Cuba, those people will, no matter which party you belong to, you will lose that state because there are so many of them. To the extent that, I mean, my sister lives still in Florida.
It's that serious.
It's that serious. So they speak English as much as Spanish, and it's that serious for them, and they're very vocal, and they make a lot of noise. They say there should never be any kind of peace with Cuba until Cuba drops its one-party state and becomes a kind of multi-party democracy. And so America is maintaining that blockade. And that blockade is what, 60, 70 years in the game. And so, yes, Gambia, and I think at this General Assembly, I think Gambia were one of the few countries to raise
that issue.
Yeah. So, thumbs up to the Gambia for doing it. Whether it will happen, it needs more voices raised against it. It's ridiculous. Because America can do business with China. They fought the war in Vietnam. They can do business with Vietnam. They still do business with Russia in spite of everything. But Cuba, which is 92 miles off the coast of America, untouched. They won't touch it. It's pure hypocrisy. If China is your great enemy, why are you doing billions of business with China?
Business with China.
It's a punitive thing, and it's bullying. And they do it because they can, because nobody can sanction America. So, it will remain. But it's disgraceful, it's shameful. And no American president has the guts, I was going to use a stronger word, to dismantle that, but it needs to be dismantled. It's a shame on America. But
Matt?
maybe they have no shame.
Yeah. Sorry. I think it's a geopolitical issue, and it's good that Gambia raised this at the UNGA, and maybe through this diplomatic route they could actually get something out of it. I think there has been a lot of changes in that state after what they have gone through, and I think initiatives like this will be able to remedy the situation. So it is really deep and technical. So Ade has already given his opinion. I'm not that of an expert in that field. I don't know the relationship between Cuba and the US, but I think through diplomatic means they could actually resolve this, and the Gambia also stepping in to raise issues that in fact is beyond their jurisdiction, shows that they now trying to mark have their footprint marked in the international.
Well, we did it with Myanmar.
Yes.
I mean, the case,
So which is good, and it's worth commending. So I am sure the Gambia already have an agenda that they're trying to communicate. And I think this is important that when this thing happens, they come out and then explain the rationale behind it and what they're trying to seek from it. And I think it's like what we call amicus in a court, right?
Yeah.
Two parties have an issue, you have someone else coming in the middle to play the friend of the court.
Yeah,
so
correct.
I think that's what Gambia is trying to do, right? And I think that will be really beneficial to the state, because many other countries will be looking out for Gambia. Maybe that could be our strength, right?
It is,
in diplomacy.
Gambia made its stance on a lot of issues.
Beyond our borders.
So maybe that could be the strength that we should leverage on and build friendship with different countries, build partnership, and be able to amicably settle issues between states, because like I said earlier on, it's better to settle these issues diplomatically than taking the horrendous way
of war. Absolutely. I mean, because there was a time when Russia went and or the Soviet Union, as it was then, had warships, that the so-called and it led to President Kennedy mounting an invasion of Cuba, where American soldiers were killed, and it was a disgraceful defeat for them. They were killed, some were captured, and it ended. I mean, America's stance regarding the whole Cuba thing, just to show where they're coming from, is that when the communists took over, they seized all businesses, and a lot of the businesses were American-owned, and they nationalized all businesses. No businesses were owned by individuals or by individual companies. They were all owned by the state. So a lot of the businesses, casinos, restaurants and hotels were owned by Americans, and they were all seized and taken into state ownership. And that's been America's beef with them, that maybe if Cuba said, okay, we will return these to the descendants of these people, maybe that will be something. But you're right.
Yeah.
Gambia has raised it. Maybe Gambia can be the kind of referee,
Yeah.
the friend that kind of brings, very improbably, but you never know. It could happen. Yeah.
So still on moving on to the Standard newspaper, Barrow petitioned at the EU Parliament.
At the EU Parliament.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
Who petitioned him?
Yeah, who
Just
petitioned
seeing that
Barrow?
on the
and
Standard
over
newspaper.
what?
I would love to go and see the details of that.
Okay.
So still on the newspapers, we have Gambia. Okay, court convicts unauthorized medicine sellers.
This is one that it's
talking about this morning.
you know, we've
Yeah.
talked about unauthorized, but we've also talked about the kind of traditional healers.
Healers, yeah.
There's a blurring of the lines. I mean, there are people I know here who they've been diagnosed with something quite serious that needs hospital treatment, and they've told me categorically, I'm not going to that. I'm going to the traditional healer because that's what I believe in. And one of them, 5 years later, is still not cured, but he's still refusing to go to a hospital. So you're fighting that, and so you know, talking about unauthorized, I don't know whether these are people who've set up a shop and they have not got the right papers or whatever, or just somebody who says, you know, I have spiritual powers and I can cure everything from cancer to AIDS to you name it. Those are dangerous, and those people need to be taken out of circulation because they could be quite harmful, because traditional medicine has been proven to be effective. One of you know, one of the journalists who's currently in China wrote a piece saying that she was ill and they treated her with Chinese traditional medicine and she was cured. So you know, it's
Yeah, there was traditional medicine before medicine.
Exactly.
So,
quite.
I think the reality with us is, you know, people have experienced it in a very positive way, right? You had, I mean, as a child growing up, when you have certain issues, headache and others, they just gotta leave.
Quite.
Boil it.
That's it.
And you drink it, or you actually stimulate, and it actually works. So
absolutely.
I think it's just that we need to do a lot of study. Our Minister of Health should also go, you know, below and then work with this traditional medicine,
because they're doing that now.
Yeah.
In fact, they had a conference just about 10 days ago.
They're traditional scientists, whether we like it or not. They're scientists, so they know the type of dosage that you should take, when you should take it, how you should take it, and then also they know what it cures. And most of these are coming from nature, trees, and other natural sources. So I don't know the pharmacies or medical practitioners they have banned based on the headline from that newspaper, but just to create a distinction here, right? Yes, from the conventional medical field, obviously there are, you know, regulations that guides how they should be operating, and then also you know what they should be selling and what not they should be selling, because you also see some people will buy drugs from the pharmacies. They are not storing it well. They put it in a bag,
and it says keep in a cool place, and they store it somewhere hot. There's a reason why they tell you keep in a cool place.
Roaming around the town and selling paracetamol. We don't know what type of paracetamol is, and all the type of drugs. So those ones, obviously, yes, if they are putting their stance on them, if they are taking them out of the game, I think that's something that is commendable. But for the traditional medicines, I think more have to be done, right? Until today, I mean, even our parents wouldn't let that go, right? And I wouldn't let that go. It's like what we were saying in the beginning, right? But also, what you own, make best use of it, right? If it is curing, even in in our religion, the Habbat Sauda that we hear in the black seed is something that was recommended by the Prophet, and it's still being used. I mean, even dates it's used as a medication. So more has to be done. Like I said, we need to be teaching ourselves, because all of these traditional medicine, if we can't allow them to die. We can't allow them to die. The offspring wouldn't be able to know. So we just move out of. We will move along, pass through a very important thing. A little bit. So I think yes, we need to also celebrate them, but also to be very, very careful. Not all traditional medical practitioners could be recommended. Others are just doing it for business, right? Before you don't see.
Just collect herbs and all of that.
Have some funny looking liquid in a bottle, and you say that I'm a herbalist, I'm a this, but there's no efficacy. It's never been proven. It's never been tested, and that's the danger sometimes.
No, definitely. And then now the advertisement that is happening with these so-called traditional medical practitioners is getting out of the hand.
They have their cards which tell you all the things they can cure, and they hand them out. Some of them are quite slick now.
People have to be very, very careful and know who to go to. And the real ones, the ones that have been very more successful, you don't see them doing this advertisement.
Because a lot of it is from recommendation.
Yes, from word of mouth. This is the experience that I've had, so I used to go to this particular person.
So, still on the Standard newspaper, Gambia condemns attack on UAE ambassador's residence in Sudan.
In where? In Sudan?
UAE, ambassador's residence
in Sudan. There's a civil war. But the reason why they attacked the ambassador's residence is because the UAE has been accused of providing funding for one side in the war. And so they have become a target. So as well as the fact that currently Sudan has the largest number of displaced people in Africa in any conflict, there is this accusation that's been ongoing for several months, 8-9 months now, that the UAE has been actually supporting, and not just supporting by money, but with arms, one of the sides in the war. So that's why that residence was targeted. Yeah.
Okay. Man?
Well, I think Sudan is still unstable. You go to the other side, the South Sudan as well is still unstable. They have a long history of civil war, crimes, and anyone going there, especially these consulates or ambassadors, they must be provided with maximum security. But regardless of that, when certain issues emerge, right, it could either be the rebels or it could be thugs attacking. So I don't really know who attacks the ambassador, right? So, but then in this type of a situation, people always have agenda. It could either be mob groups, it could be rebels, it could be anyone, right? And I think whatever happens in their countries, the diplomats they should be safe from any persecution or to be persecuted or to be threatened or what have you. So I think Sudan right now is a high risk. South Sudan is a high risk. And Gambia have had a history of, working in that country to maintain peace. But to date, it is actually escalating. And I think this also has to do with governance, because especially in South Sudan, I think until today they could not have their elections, right? That's right. And then you
and it's the tragedy about that is the newest state in Africa in terms of its creation. And within a year of its creation, the country had already descended into civil war. They got their independence from Sudan. But we had Al Burhan. He spoke at the UN General Assembly, and he's the military leader there. But then you had Dagan, who leads the Rapid Support Forces, and they've taken city after city. And as we speak, the regular army, is trying to retake Khartoum from the rebels. So it's a really messy situation, and I think you absolutely nailed it on the head when you said in a war of this type, you don't know who attacked.
Yeah.
Whether it was the
And they always
rebels or
have an
just
agenda.
thugs or thieves or whomever. It's a beautiful building, and it's a target for thieves as much as anybody who has a political agenda.
Exactly. Someone will in fact have a personal agenda with UAE, and not particularly that individual, but because they see that individual as the representative of that particular kingdom in South Sudan, they could, you know, flush out their revenge, their anger on that particular country, just to send a signal. So it's really, really tricky, and you know, that region really have to be stabilized. I have a colleague who's a parliamentarian there. He transitioned from a rebel leader, because not a rebel leader, from a rebel.
Okay.
He's one of those, you know, child soldiers that they've been recruited. So
right.
resisting.
This was in Sudan or South Sudan?
It's in South Sudan.
In South Sudan.
South Sudan, right? Just to give you the context, resisting the political persecution at the time. It's not. I cannot still justify what was happening, but to give you the story, is he is a parliamentarian. They were about to get to election. He told me, "I'm going to send all of my kids to Kenya." And I asked him why. He said, "I'm ready for everything."
Yeah, of course.
Right. I'm pretty much sure that the election might not be peaceful.
Yeah.
And as an ex-rebel, I'm a politician right now. But if it means going back to arms and protecting myself, I will do that.
The mindset is always there.
That shows you.
That's the mindset they have. Yeah.
That shows you how unstable and how high risk the place is. Sudan too is another thing, and we have to go back to history why South Sudan also break out of Sudan.
Yeah.
So I think really, to just sum it up, that state is really interesting, and I think the AU have been doing a lot. African countries have also been doing a lot to stabilize the country, but most importantly as well, I think most governments will have to be very, very careful, right?
I think the whole region, that Horn of Africa, is becoming volatile.
Exactly. It's same with Ethiopia,
Egypt,
Somalia,
Somaliland, Puntland.
Somalia and Somaliland.
And just recently Egypt and Ethiopia, you know, have been at loggerheads because of the dam.
And I think it's more than that, because what had triggered all this, the conflict at the Tigray region.
Quite.
So what normally happens with just geopolitics, if you have a history, not good history with a particular state, right, and these issues emerge, they cannot take advantage of it. And this issue of the dam has been going on for a very long time, right? So African Union must do whatever possible
to
mitigate this from going south, right? Because once that happens, it will go down to the other part. We have already seen the signals sent in the West African region. We're just few miles away to be affected. You understand? So it is getting really out of hand from what happened in Ukraine and Russia, now down to West African countries now. Illicitly taking governments out of office, and then also what is happening in the Tigray region now. It's now a regional issue, South Sudan. So Gambia and Senegal, West Africa have to be very, very, very careful and to be on alert.
Thank you very much, Matt, for coming.
And let me just give one statistic before we close. We're talking about Sudan and South Sudan. When people hear the word pyramids, they think of Egypt. But do you know that there are more pyramids in Sudan and South Sudan than there are in Egypt? Not many people know that, but that's a fact.
And you get all the way to Mexico as well. You have these pyramids being built. So
absolutely. But in terms of sheer numbers, there are more in Sudan and South Sudan than there are in Egypt. And yet everybody associates Egypt with pyramids.
Thank you very much, Matt, for coming, for joining us on this morning program. It was really an honor to have you here. Thank you very much, Mr. Ade.
I'm pleased to be here, and I'm glad that we ranged far and wide in terms of the discussion.
Exactly.
Thank you. And don't forget, Pink October starts today, and today, International Day of Elderly Persons.
So until we come your way tomorrow for another edition of this morning program. Bye-bye.